Chagiga Daf Tes Vav. This is the Elisha ben Avuya Daf. Very interesting, tragic, fascinating. There's a lot to cover. Elisha ben Avuya was a deep, very deep personality, brilliant Talmid Chacham, who unfortunately went off the derech and over the course of his life tried to return several times, but never quite felt that he was able to, for various reasons that we'll talk about. First of all, remember we said in the Mishnah, or in the Gemara yesterday, 4 people entered the orchard, Pardes, and they had various outcomes. Elisha ben Avuya went in and he came out, and the Gemara says that when he came out, he cut down trees from the orchard. So what does that mean? It means that he went off the derech. So the Gemara today explains a little bit what that means. That he went up there, he saw that there was the angel called Metatron, maybe the source for Megatron, Transformers, who was pretty much like he was doing some sort of accounting work for Hashem, and he was sitting in Hashem's presence. So that thought made Elisha think, maybe there's more than one person in charge. I thought you're not supposed to sit. Only Hashem is allowed to sit up there. So that kind of led him to stray and have sort of certain controversial thoughts. And then a bas kol came out and said the famous pasuk "Shuvu banim shavavim chutz me'acher," which is that everyone has the ability to do tshuva except for acher. So what does that mean? He can't do tshuva. He wanted to. The Maharsha, I believe, says that he is able to technically do tshuva, but Hashem is not like supporting him, or Hashem normally, we know Habal L'Taher Misayno, so Hashem helps everyone do tshuva, but maybe Achar not. So, and obviously, though it may not seem like the craziest thing that he did, the greater you are, the bigger the magnitude of your controversial thoughts. And so, based on that, he was told he could not do tshuva, and after he had that experience, then when he came back into the regular world, he was so like distraught and pushed away that he went completely off the derech, and he started doing, he stopped following Torah mitzvos. So the Gemara recounts a couple episodes. First of all, he went to a prostitute, and she said, "Aren't you Elisha ben Avuya?" And he said he basically picked up a radish. It was Shabbos at the time, and she said, "Oh, must not be Elisha ben Avuya, must be Acher, someone else." And that name kind of stuck. Sort of an interesting story because he went to her on Shabbos, which I guess that didn't raise any eyebrows. So he had to dafka do something to violate Shabbos, to prove it to her. Then the Gemara recounts a couple of stories with Elisha ben Avuya's Rabbi Meir, that like various encounters. First of all, Elisha asked him, what is the pasuk Gam Zeh Azeh Lu'uma Elokim? Gam Zeh Lu'uma Zeh Elokim. Sorry. What does that actually mean? So Elisha ben Avuya, basically they were debating the actual term of the explanation from the pasuk. Rabbi Meir said it means that Hashem creates opposing forces. He creates mountains. He creates valleys. Elisha ben Avuya says, no, actually what it means is Hashem creates, basically, tzaddikim have a certain share in the world to come, Rishon a certain share in the world to come. And they both have certain shares in Gehenna as well. And when a tzaddik does a good deed, then he sort of takes the share from the Rasha. And when a Rasha does something and vice versa, a little bit of a hard idea to understand. I think the second encounter is more interesting because Elisha ben Avuya asks, what is lo yarkena zahav v'zuchuches utmurasa klipaz? So what does that mean, that you can't value gold and silver and glass utmurasa klipaz? So Meir says, what this means is that you need to have your zechuyot kind of clear like water. But Elisha translated to mean something very different. He said, no, what it means is that, and according to Rabbi Akiva, that everyone has the ability to, no matter how broken you are, you have the ability to be fixed. Like glass, although it shatters or gold, if it bends, you can still melt it and then rebuild it. So he was sort of trying to find inspiration to be Choser B'Tshuva. And you see there are countless other episodes here where, for example, he was riding a horse on Shabbos, and then he told Rabbi Meir, sorry, we have now just passed 2,000 amos, so you need to turn back before you hit the Tchum. And Rabbi Meir says, yeah, you should also do tshuva, turn back, allegorically. He says, I can't. He doesn't say I don't want to, he says I can't, because the Baskol, Shuva Badim Shabavim. So you can see it was really haunting him. Then Rabbi Meir, who wasn't satisfied by that, took him to 13 different yeshivas and asked people, "Nu, tell me what you've learned." And everyone said the pasuk that was on their mind, and each one had a certain connotation to explain why basically Elisha was unable to do tshuva, which is pretty tragic, because it really, to go to 13 different yeshivas means that you're really looking for a way that you can come back. And it seemed that the doors of Shemayim were closed to him. So after he passed away, fast forwarding a little bit, Rabbi Meir saw that he was in limbo because he was a big tzaddik. So so he wasn't supposed to go to Gehenna, but then he was also very controversial. So he wasn't supposed to go to Olam Haba. So Rabbi Meir says this isn't right. Doesn't make sense. He really should go to Gehenna first to cleanse himself, and then he should go to Olam Haba afterwards. So when Rabbi Meir passed away, that's what he advocated for, and that's why like a pillar of smoke rose up from Elisha's grave after Meir passed away. And then Rabbi Yochanan, when he passed away, he saw this isn't right either, because Elisha ben Avu is a big tzaddik. He's had enough suffering, so he saved him. Interesting. So then the Gemara asks, well, going back for a moment, how could Rabbi Meir have learned from Acher if he was such a big, apikoros? So we bring different sources. One pasuk says, basically the idea, the psukim say that there is merit to learning from somebody, even though his deeds may not be so strong, which is a very interesting topic, especially nowadays when there are these massive gedolim who come out with like big controversies. The question is like, how much can you listen to the Torah after you've seen that they haven't been so righteous themselves? Lastly, we end with a discussion of why good people go astray in general. I think this story was that Rabbi Yehuda was crying a lot, and Shmuel asked him why you're crying, and he said basically he was quoting a pasuk with David and with Doeg and Achitophel, like if such great tzaddikim become so evil, then what hope do I have? We're all gonna die kind of thing. And Shmuel basically said, don't worry, because those people, although they were big tzaddikim, they had a propensity to sin since their youth, since the beginning. And you, don't worry, you're totally fine. So Gemara says, what about Elisha ben Avuya? What did he have since his early days? So Gemara says, well, maybe he was listening to non-Jewish music, or he didn't take he was listening to music even though you're not supposed to since the Churban. Or maybe other things that he did, like maybe he read controversial articles and different literature. And then the Yerushalmi also adds there's a story where basically his father at his bris invited Rabbi Yehoshua and Rabbi Eliezer, and they had such an intense chabrusa that they almost lit the whole house on fire. And basically Elisha ben Avuya's father was so impressed that he basically said, I really want my son to follow in your paths. So it wasn't really the best intentions, and maybe that could have sparked the little bad seed in Elisha. And that concludes Chagiga Daf Tesvav with a whole topic about Elisha ben Avuya.